Hello, everybody, and welcome to a quick update from I Wish You Were Dead, a podcast about things that used to be alive. I'm one of your hosts, Gavin, and this week's episode is going to be pushed to next week with some scheduling, timeline stuff with some of our guests. It's going to be a guest episode next week, so, timing guests is always a little bit difficult, but it'll come out next week on Wednesday as usual. And with that, just for a bit of fun for this little update, I had a really fun interaction online with one of my friends who knows I host the podcast and tagged me on Facebook with a fun little interaction. So he phrased it as somebody calling into a radio show. So this is my friend Tug. He said, "Longtime listener, first-time caller. Gavin, when did it become common knowledge to humans that dinosaurs existed? Like, did George Washington know there used to be dinosaurs? Did Abe Lincoln know? Thanks. I'll take my answer off the air." So, first of all, thank you for your question, Tug. Local radio cannot survive without listeners like you. And so I responded to him on Facebook and said, to answer your question, it's pretty hard to know what any given historical figure knew about before they died. Large reptilian bones have been found all over the world, throughout history. Lots of, cultures and different indigenous groups all over the world had myths of dragons, and it's, very widely thought that bones of dinosaurs and other large extinct reptiles might have been the source of some of those myths and stories in different, lore of all these different cultures all across the world. That being said, George Washington himself probably knew about fossils, but definitely not about dinosaurs. The first dinosaur was published in 1824. That's Megalosaurus, a large theropod dinosaur. But the word dinosaur itself didn't get created until 1842. So quite a bit after George Washington's time. Abe Lincoln may have known about dinosaurs, but I guess that'd kind of depend on how much British scientific literature he'd read, or whether his scientific advisors were well read. It sort of became much more common knowledge here in the U.S. Not too long after the 1840s. Like I said, the word dinosaur came about in 1842, but the first dinosaur found in the U.S. was found in 1858, so after, well before Lincoln's death. Interestingly, though, something I always like to point out about notorious, generally not great human Thomas Jefferson. He was actually a very avid fossil hunter. He did not think that extinction was a thing that could happen. Extinction wasn't a widely held view at the time of Jefferson's day, but when he was president and even a little bit after, people started finding all of these large mammal bones, things like mammoths, giant ground sloths, stuff like that. And, when he was in charge and in the government, people brought stuff to his attention, and he basically sent out people to try and find, because he didn't think extinction was a thing. He thought, well, these bones are here. Clearly, these animals must still be living here as well. Obviously, he was not correct. He missed them by, a few thousand years. But yeah, so he liked fossils, thought they were interesting and worthy of government funding. And I even got to see some of his fossils that he, worked with and stuff when I went and visited the Academy of Natural Sciences last year in Philadelphia. So I responded all that to Tug. And then he responded back with a follow-up that said, "Can you with any level of certainty tell me who was the first president who was aware that dinosaurs existed and roamed the earth?" And after looking into it a little bit, I'd say probably either John Taylor. He was president in the 1840s when the word dinosaur was first published. Either that or James K. Polk, since he was president right after him. So whether information traveled at way slower speeds back in the 1840s than it does today, obviously. Although James Monroe was president when Megalosaurus, that first dinosaur was published in 1824, but it was discovered in England, and very famously, we did not have a terrific relationship with England in the early 1800s. So, whether or not, depending on how you define knew about dinosaurs, whether you had heard of big extinct reptiles or whether you'd heard the word dinosaur, kind of depends on the answer to that question. So yeah, thanks for your question, Tug, and giving me a little bit of content to put out this week. But yeah, keep an eye out in your podcast feed for the interview episode next week. I'm very excited about it. It's with some really cool people doing some really cool stuff out at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. And I'm really excited about it. And with that, I have been Gavin. Mike and Fia will be around eventually. Fia's currently real busy with all of her PhD stuff, and Mike's, concussion is getting better slowly but surely. But yeah, thanks for listening, and we will see you all next week. Until then, take care.